Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, this can't be it? I was made for so much more than just this.
Most important race is your family and your marriage and all that kind of stuff, but you can win both. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. My biggest fear was getting married, but
Mm.
once I met my wife, I was like, no kidding, from the day we met, the day we were married is 3 months. It was just one of those things where I was like, this is my girl, like I'm doing this thing. I'm going to make decisions in my life that future generations look up and they're like, it was him or it was her. Like the financial principles that changed our family's life forever, or the addiction stopped with him, or the abuse stopped with him. They're like, my great 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 grandpa, my great 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 grandma, she's the one for our family. I wanted to be that one for my family.
Welcome to the High Performance Human Podcast, where high achievers learn to master themselves, not just their success. I'm Creighton Bertrand, a certified high performance coach, here to share practical tools to rewire your habits and mindset. If you're ready to move beyond good enough and step into real transformation, you're in the right place. Let's get to work. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, this can't be it? I was made for so much more than just this. Maybe you've worked hard, maybe you've achieved success, or even checked the boxes, but deep down, you know you're still repeating a story that you were never meant to live. Well, today's guest, Justin Prince, knows that feeling. He went from broke and broken to becoming the one who stopped running from his past, who rewrote his identity and changed the direction of his life and family for generations to come. In his book, Be the One, Justin shares how to shift your mindset, rebuild your confidence, and design a life that reflects who you were created to be. So if you've ever felt stuck in old patterns, tired of carrying stories that really aren't yours, and you're ready to become the one who changes everything, then this one is just for you. Awesome. Well, Mr. Prince, or Justin, thank you so much for coming and being on the show today, brother. How's your day going so far?
Yeah, it's great, man. I appreciate you having me on, and it's great to get connected.
Yeah, man. We were kind of messaging through Instagram before this, and you're like, hey, how did you find me? And I'm like, man, any father that's out there striving to be a better father is my type of guy. So I'm just so grateful to get someone that not only has your background, your biceps, but also your drive to be the family man that you are on the show to help us out. So thanks so much for giving us some of your
Yeah, no,
time.
I appreciate that. I mean, I heard a quote years ago from a really wise man. He said that no success outside your home can compensate for failure inside your home. And so to me, I feel like there's really two races, right? The first race is making money, building a business, Instagram followers, having a car, having a house, like in other words, all the stuff you would think you're supposed to go chase or whatever, like all the things that the world would tell you are important. And
Yeah.
then the real race is the second race, which is your relationship with your faith, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your kids, like your legacy, like what kind of human are you? How do you treat people? And what I like to share with people, and just to kind of kick off our discussion, is like you can win both races. You don't have to, like, if you win the second race and or if you win the first race, pardon me, and lose the second race, I feel like you lost both. But the thing about it is you don't have to be like so ultra spiritual that you never make a dollar. Like you can go, make
Mhm.
an incredible living for yourself too. So that's really what I've tried to do is most important race is your family and your marriage and all that kind of stuff. But you can win both. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other.
What would you say, or do you think that there's something you could have said to a younger version of yourself that was like, okay, I'll get to the faith and family. I'll get to what you're saying is the second and the most important part of the race, which I couldn't agree with more. What would you say to a younger version of yourself that's like, you know what, Justin, this is great, but let me just get the money. I deal with so many clients that are like, once I get the hundreds or the million, then I will whatever that is. I'll either be happier, I'll be better, I'll finally make time. Do you think that there's anything that you could have said to a younger version of yourself to like, hey, listen to what I'm saying. I know something.
Yeah, I mean, so my folks got divorced when I was 12. We moved 13 times through the 7 years through the teenage years. I was my mom's oldest. My dad was married before, had my older sister, older brother. And so when my dad and mom got married, I was their oldest, my mom's
Okay.
oldest. And so I lived with my mom. I was the oldest child at home with my mom. And my biggest fear was getting married, But once I met my wife, I was like, no kidding. From the day we met, the day we were married is 3 months. It was just one of those things where I was like, this is my girl. Like I'm doing this thing.
Whoa, but how did you go from and do you know what your fear of being married was? Was it
Just of
because,
getting divorced, just the pain of getting divorced.
but then in 3 months you were like, okay, you
Yeah, I mean,
totally
no kidding.
changed.
So I met her on a Tuesday. We went to lunch. We talked on when this is, by the way, this is back in the day. This is probably even pre your time. This is back in the blind date days, dude. Those of you that know what I'm
Oh,
talking about, this is
wow. Yeah, yeah,
pre-social.
yeah.
So literally a blind date. Like I'd never seen her before. She'd never seen me.
Wow, that's
And
real catfish potential there.
yeah, exactly. So this is actually pre-catfish. Not even,
Yeah.
catfish was in the river, kind of thing.
Right.
No one even know what you're talking about. And so just literally was like, I can't help but falling in love with you. We went out again. We talked on Wednesday, Thursday, went out again on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I remember Sunday night, I took her on a drive and I'm like, I'm definitely going to marry you. I'm not sure when, but I'm definitely going to marry you. When you know, I guess.
How
Luckily,
old were you?
I was 22, she was 25.
Okay.
And fortunately, she didn't be like, what is this guy freaking talking about? She was kind of all in, it just kind of worked out. But I was committed first to her and first to the marriage and first to our family, even before the financial commitment. Now, with that said, I was highly driven. I wanted to succeed. I wanted to provide. At that point, you're just trying to, keep the family fed kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what I would share with particularly like a young man that's coming up is a couple things. One is this whole thing goes really fast. And I know we all freaking say that. And like the older we get, the more we say it, but it just goes fast. And so you do want to take time with those kids when they're young because it's going to go fast. My oldest now is almost 22.
Wow.
And so that's the first thing. Second thing I would say is you can do what I call kind of quality versus quantity. I didn't have a ton of quantity time because I was really grinding during a lot of those years. But I would find really quality time, whether it was like date nights with my little girls. I'd take them on little date nights. I'd take my son on date nights. Like I would take him out fishing or I'd roll around on the carpet with him and just kind of wrestle with him. But it was hyper intentional, no phones, no distractions, just really hyper intentional. It was smaller quantity of time, but I kept those connection points tight. Same thing with my wife. Like I'd take her on a date or we would do things to where I could keep that emotional connection. Because here's how, when it comes to like your marriage, you can sit on the same couch and be emotionally disconnected, and you can be 2,000 miles away and be emotionally connected. So the proximity doesn't always connect the emotions. And for a woman specifically, because men are much, a love language would be much more, for example, physical touch, that kind of stuff.
Right.
A woman wants to feel love through communication and feel love through security and feel love through that you care and that you're willing to like slow down to, keep that relationship warm. And
Hmm.
listen, I'm not an expert on all this stuff. I'm figuring out like everybody else. But what I'd say is when she and I were on the same page, similar goals, similar dreams, she knew
Hmm.
that she was always my first priority. That gave her the peace to let me go chase the dream while she kind of held down the fort and like kept us, running a really tight ship at home. And that was a magical formula for our relationship.
Yeah, and I'd like to dive into that. I know from my experience when I was doing structural analysis on airplanes, like all these things, my wife had no idea what it was that I did. And I didn't realize this until later once I quit and she started to help me in my real estate and in my coaching and so many other things to have her interested in what I was doing because being away as an engineer for like 13 years for 40 hours a week, that was a lot of time that we weren't focused on the same goal or focused on like she didn't show interest in it because she didn't understand any of this stuff anyway. It was all these stress equations and all this. So for you and your wife, when you were going through and really pushing, was that something that you noticed helped give you more fuel and made it? One thing that I've noticed for a lot of men is when their wives are bought into the vision, they don't feel as guilty
Yeah,
when they're
100%.
out hustling and doing this. And that can create so much disconnection. So
Yeah,
was that something that you,
so aligning those goals and dreams is super critical. Like we actually I'm a advisor to the board for a direct sales company out here in Utah. So direct sales meaning these are like, they have a bunch of these primarily young men that go out and do door-to-door sales throughout the summer. They build a large company doing this. And so they had all of their like leadership management come to our house and with their wives. And my wife and I like kind of had like this session with them, this jam session with them.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I thought was really challenging for this next generation is they wanted it earlier. They wanted like the trip to France or the Louis Vuitton bag or the cool car or the cool house or whatever. They wanted it early in the game where they didn't have the net worth yet, the income yet, the professional skill sets yet
Mm.
to validate that level of life quite yet.
Hmm.
But they felt a ton of pressure, primarily from the wives. And I'm not calling these amazing moms and women out by any stretch, but these young men felt a lot of pressure from the women. And part of what my wife was saying to them, she's just like, guys, like we didn't go on a vacation for years during that grind. At one point, we moved my pregnant wife and our two kids into the loft of my wife's parents' garage. My first business had failed. I was working two part-time jobs. I started another business. I was just like legit in the grind.
Yeah.
And during that season or during that process, it's hard to kind of keep everything, kind of all the fires burning, when you're just like, you're just freaking grinding and just trying to make it happen. But what was really powerful is there was times I wanted to give up on myself. I remember nights at 1 a.m, it's pitch black and I'm laying in bed and I'm like, babe, are you awake? And she's like, yeah. She goes, you awake? I go, yeah. I go, am I crazy? Like, am I
Mm.
chasing a fake dream? Is this ever going to happen for us? And fortunately for me, she was like, yo, you got this. You can make it happen. Hang in there. Like, I believe in you. And sometimes her belief in me meant more to me than, my belief. She had more belief in me than I had in myself. And so you can be a really supportive person that way, even in challenging times. Now, I was putting in the effort. So if a wife's listening to this and they're like, but my man's, he's playing video games. Like he's not,
Mm.
like, that's not who I was. I was putting in the effort, right? One of the things I teach is what I call enlisting your family. So imagine you have a goal to make the illustration. You want to get 5 customers and you say to your
Mm.
kids, come here, honey, come here. If we get 5 customers, dad's going to take you to ice cream. Or we get 5 customers, babe, we're going to go on a date. Or we get 5 customers, we're going to go down to the Holiday Inn and do a staycation, like whatever it is. The point is,
Mhm.
you enlist them in the goals. So they're not dad's goals, they're not mom's goals, they're like the family's goals. And what's cool with kids is kids will be like, hey, dad, hey, mom, where are we at with our customers? Do about 3? Like, get some more, let's do this thing. And it becomes kind of a family business. And I look at my entrepreneurial journey and my kids felt like the business was their business. I took them on incentive trips and they kind of felt like it was theirs. And they saw the wins and they saw the losses. Maxwell says that leadership is visual. People do what people see.
Mm.
And I wanted my kids to see me set big goals, even when I missed them, even when I didn't hit them. I wanted kids to see it and watch me chase and pick myself back up and go again. So I just enlisted the kids in the dreams and the goals. I had financial conversations with them, even when they were little, and just tried to like get their heads wrapped around what I was doing. I think that made a big difference where they didn't feel like it was their goal, or they didn't feel like it was my business, feel like it was their business.
Can you remember? I love that you say this because this is something that I found has been so impactful in our family is not just sharing the wins, but sharing the losses. Like, I think it's so important for my kids because I know growing up, I didn't see my dad failing. He kept that to himself. So when I got older and was pushing and striving and it wasn't working the way I wanted and I was failing, I thought that failure meant I was a failure. So for me, whenever I set goals, I love hearing what you're saying because this is something that I teach other people and do as well of I have my family bought into my goals and my vision, but I also share with them, hey, I failed. Like, I know I promised you I did this. I tried my best and I didn't get it. And I actually feel terrible. But this is what I'm doing to rebuild this integrity to try to achieve this for the next quarter or whatever. Have you noticed that that's something that's really important on your side?
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. My prior business started when I was 32. We took over an existing company. It was a 25-year-old company. It had had 8 years in a row of declining revenue, like really steep decline in revenue. And we came in as kind of a transformation team to transform this company. We basically tore it down to the floorboards, rebuild it. I was a minority equity partner, but then my job was really to drive sales.
Oh, wow.
And over the next basically decade, we did 2.5 billion in revenue and like we built a really significant global business. And our equity group that owned it had taken out hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of debt onto the company, it's basically structured on debt onto the company. And
Okay.
so when the company had a little bit of softening in revenue, it put the company in basically a completely precarious financial situation, like it was on the verge of bankruptcy.
Wow.
And so 2023, October of 23, I'm the number one sales leader. I was kind of the face of the company. I was the one that co-created the company. my wife and I landed with our kids in fall break in New York, and we're pulling into our hotel room. We've been traveling all day. We live in southern Utah, so from southern Utah to New York is like if you're in a regional airport and then get to New York, it's a long day.
Hmm.
And as we pull in the Uber, I get an email from one of the largest law firms in America basically saying that you're terminated and we're suing you. So they got rid of me to both to keep the cash to, you know,
Oh, so they didn't have to pay
cut
you out.
expense basically.
Yeah.
And then also to go to the bank and try and create a narrative to why revenue was down. It was
Mm.
super, super dirty and super bizarre. And, 11 years of your life, 11 of the best years of your career. It was just a super surreal moment. So I have two adjoining rooms in our hotel room. My kids are in the one room, my wife and I are in the other room.
Okay.
And we've been traveling all day. It's about 11 o'clock at night. I'm on the phone with my attorneys. I have my wife order them room service because they're, hungry. They've been traveling all day.
Mhm.
And I'm like trying to process. I mean, on one hand, I could burst into tears. On the other hand, I'm pissed. On the other hand, I'm scared. On the other hand, I'm panicked. I mean, it was just the whole list of emotions.
When you got to that moment, like what was, because I think this is something that a lot of people get. Like life happens and all these feelings, all these things are happening. And this is what I love that you're so focused on is like, okay, I feel all these things. Now I get to make the decision of like, who is the one that I want to be despite of all this that's happening.
Yeah, so that's basically what happened. Is I pulled my kids I went into their room, got off the phone with my attorneys. It was one of those things where I was like, "Yeah, I'll call you guys back in a second."
Yeah.
I sit them down and I just go, my two little girls at the time. Now, keep in mind, my son, I started that business the day after my son was born. So this, all he's ever known his whole life was this business. My
Okay.
little girl was, I think, 5 when I started, and the other one was 3. So it's really all that they've ever known was this
Yeah.
business. And I sit him down. I go, I got terminated tonight. My little girl goes, "What does that mean?" And her little sister said, "It means Dad got fired."
Mm,
And she goes, "Fired from the company." And she goes, "I thought Dad was the company." Like, couldn't wrap their heads around it.
yeah.
And I said to him, I go, "I just want you guys to know something." I mean, dude, I don't know if you've ever seen me so serious. I go, "First of all, they picked the wrong freaking guy."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm going to fight back legally, number one." And I go, number two, all of it, I'll come back. I go, "You guys watch. I'm going to freaking come back from this." And I go, "You guys are going to watch me. Like, you're going to watch me pick myself up off the floor and come back."
Mm.
And my little girls are like sitting there eating their French fry, like, bro, he's pretty intense.
Oh, wow.
And, a year later, we launched my current company, Make Wellness. And 11 months after that, we'd done $100 million in revenue and, become the number one bioactive peptide company in the world. And we created this great business. And so I wanted them to watch that
Mm,
journey, including getting freaking buried, including just getting
yeah.
completely crushed, wrongfully crushed and going through all the legal bull crap and the whole thing. And my kids have watched it. They've literally lived it with me. In all of it in real time. So those are great lessons that your kids get to watch you pick yourself up off the floor and go make stuff happen.
I've heard you say this a couple times that life can either happen for you or it can happen to you. Of all the moments that has gone through maybe your life, like, is that one that you would say you actually are the most proud of how you showed up when all that was happening to give that as an example for your kids? Or can you think of another time where you're like, no, actually, it was this smaller, insignificant one?
Yeah, I mean, I think looking back at that at the end of the day, I'm probably relatively proud of myself that I, kind of kept my composure and didn't completely melt down during all that. But there's a couple of like I had another physical one going back to like the leadership is visual. In 2017, business was doing about $120 million a year. I was making a great living. My marriage was great. Kids were healthy and happy. And just so in other words, on one hand, you're like, dude, you're like living the dream, like all the stuff you dreamed about. But I like look in the mirror and I'm like, what the freak, dude? Like I had like let myself get way softer than I should let myself get. I try and hold myself to a standard of health. And I was just like, what the heck has happened?
How old
You
were
know
you
how
at
it is. It
that
happens a
time?
little bit over time. You don't quite, one day you're like, what the heck? Like
Yeah.
you're like, normally you can turn in the mirror a certain couple of directions. You're like, I was fine, right?
You changed the lighting a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
be like, well, let me do a
I was
little
like, this is
undertone.
not looking good. And so I entered a men's physique show. There was one 17 weeks away.
Oh, wow.
And I sat my kids down. I was like, yo, I'm gonna do this thing. Same thing, but just on a different thing. I go, that's such a physical thing, meaning
Yeah.
they have to watch you make your meal plan. They have to watch you not eat the desserts. They have to watch you do your cardio. They have to watch you lift your weights, wake up early. It's very physical. Like some goals that we do, they don't quite see us at work all day long or whatever. This one was more physical. And I wanted them to watch my physique change and my life change and my body change and the whole thing. And I wanted them to watch me when I got injured and how did I respond? And so I just think, again, leadership is visual. People do what people see. And we can tell our kids all day long, what to do and how to act and whatever. But man, the essence of leadership is example. And it's like there's a study done on fleas, the little bugs, little flea. So a flea can jump 3 to 4 feet up straight up in the air. So 36 to 48 inches. They put them in little petri dishes like this. So let's call it 4 inches high. And they put an invisible net over the petri dish. And the little fleas would jump up like this and would hit their head on the bottom of the net. And as they hit their head, eventually you could remove the net and the fleas would jump to where the net once was. In other words, they kind of stopped jumping full speed because they bumped up against hitting it. You say, well, how long does it take to condition the fleas? Was it 3 years? Was it 3 months? Was it 3 days? It takes 3 hours to condition them. And what's happened is they become conditioned to play small. And that's what happens to so many of us. We're just not going for it because we've kind of become, we've had enough failure, enough pain, enough bump our heads to where we don't really go for it. Well, here's what's interesting. Those same fleas reproduced. And the next generation of fleas, guess how high they all jumped? They all jumped as high as the example of mom and dad. Like they jumped 3 or 4 inches when they can jump 4 feet straight up in the air and jump out whenever they wanted to jump out. But they have become conditioned to play small by the example of their parents. And I think that's one of the challenges that we all have as parents and as fathers is to say, listen, I'm not going to tell my kids to go chase dreams, chase goals, like that they can accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. I'm going to go show them that they can accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. I'm going to go show them how to pick themselves up when they get knocked down. And I'm going to go set an example for our family. I'm going to make decisions in my life that future generations look up and they're like, it was him or it was her. Like the financial principles that changed our family's life forever, or the addiction stopped with him, or the abuse stopped with him. They're like, my great, great, great grandpa, my great, great, great grandma, she's the one for our family. I wanted to be that one for my family.